This past week, the world, the Jewish world especially, lost a great friend, and I personally lost a personal friend. And I'd like to say a few words to Maspi, to sing his praises, which have been sung so much, and his deeds speak highly, and probably speak the strongest of who he was. But our dear beloved friend, Meir Yaakov ben Aaron, Meir Zlototowitz, the editor and publisher and director with Rav Sherman, Rav Zlototowitz left this world to go to the Olam HaEmetz. I'm kind of part of the family for many years. I met Rabbi Zlototowitz in 1981 at the Kotel, when before I was really Baal Tshuva, and I wasn't dressed in my black and whites. And Rabbi Zlototowitz saw me doing Hagbar, picking up the Sefer Torah in the minyan, and he was enthralled by this person that was doing this, right? First of all, I'm quite tall, and I lifted it to full extension. I didn't know much what I was doing, but I mean, we met then. And since that time, we became close friends. And my wife has written a number of books for Art Scroll. I've been involved with a number of books in Art Scroll. And our families have been interrelated since then. The children of Rabbi Zlototowitz and the grandchildren of Rabbi Zlototowitz have been Batim in my house, Ben Batim. There's a lot that can be said about Reb Meir. He was just an incredible human being. He was a friend of Yeshivas Rabbi Akiva. Before that, he was a friend of Yeshiva Birkas HaTorah. Always been a good friend to me, a supporter and a friend that was there for me, an advisor, a person who gave me eitzah. Most of all, gave me this warmth and feeling of being welcome. Before I came back to keeping the mitzvahs, he was there with open arms, understanding the journey of a Baal Tshuva, with kindness and warmth and love. When my parents passed away, Rabbi Zlototowitz and Rabbi Sherman and the staff at Art Scroll were there with me, because they knew I didn't have any backing and I didn't know that much. It was years and years ago. They made sure they came to the Levaya, they made sure they went to the cemetery, they made sure to Menachem Avel. Rabbi Zlototowitz was there for me over all these years and watched my progress. And he told me himself, he said, I was always fascinated with my growth for being a person that was out on the road traveling around the world to becoming somebody who was shomer mitzvahs and hopefully a servant of God. So I just wanted to say in praise of the man, a couple of stories. When I used to go in the early years when I would travel to America, I would go to Art Scroll. I'd go visit Reb Meir. And every time before I left, now Art Scroll in those years did not have the number of volumes they had. They didn't have a library like they had. They had one back room in Brooklyn that had all the volumes that they had published. In the back room, it was a few bookshelves. Right? And he'd always say to me, go back and take what you want and take what you need. Most of the library in the yeshiva, a great deal of it today, of course it's Art Scroll, but a lot of it came from those early years, and in my house is filled with books from those early years. He always said to me, go take what you don't have. The Sidurim that we have so many of, will always say, go get some Sidurim. If he'd come here, I have Sidurim from him with his name inscribed in the Siddur of Rabbi Zlototowitz, right, that he gave me as gifts. He was always a true and dear friend. This was a man that, to me, when I heard the spading the other day from his children, his grandchildren, this was somebody that's worth emulating. That's the greatest testimony for a person if you're searching for God, that there's a man in this world who was worth emulating. That was Rabbi Meir Zlototowitz. Rabbi Meir 24/7, worked for the Tzibor. But one of the things that impressed me most about the Hespedim that were done, or made by his children and his grandchildren, the man was busy beyond belief. Look what he's produced. He and Rav Sherman have produced the Gemaras. They've produced the Chumash. They produced Sidurim. They produced the Midrash. They produced Halacha. What haven't they produced? And yet the children and the grandchildren kept saying one thing. Zaidi, Rabbi Zlototowitz, was there for us whenever we needed him. When did he have time? He created a world. He brought hundreds of thousands of people back to Torah. He changed the face of the earth for the Jewish people. And of course, if the Jewish people's face in the earth has changed, certainly the earth itself has changed. He did all this work. But he always had time for his family, and as far as I'm concerned, to me also, a small man in the Jewish world. There's many great people that he was involved with all the time. He always had time for me. He called me, says, I'm very, very busy. You need something from me? Here's what you should write me. How to get in touch with him and how he'd respond to me very quickly. This was a man that I, in his position, would be overwhelmed all the time. When I have to, my own little place in this world, the Yeshivas Rabbi Akiva, I'm overwhelmed. He was all over the world, all over the globe, with projects that were unbelievable and had his hands on everything. And yet he had time for his family, and he had time for people like me. He had time when I needed him. He was there for me. When he came, I celebrated when he came to Eretz Yisrael, to Yerushalayim. He came to the Kotel, and David Nates, I got to spend a few minutes with him. The man was totally a pure Yid, who served Klal Yisrael, who had vision, who demanded perfection of himself and everybody around him, had warmth and love for everybody that he saw. Right? Was truly the model of what a Jew should be. And for me, I heard the Hespedim and who he was and realized, wow, he did a lot in this world, and he had time for everybody. Usually if somebody's producing for the tzibur, for the congregation, for the congregation, for the Jewish people, they'll usually have time for their work, but they won't have time for their family. Or they'll have somebody has time for their family and amusement, not time for work. Rabbi Zlototowitz is a role model for everybody to look at, how you can do everything that you want to do. If you focus in service of God and for the betterment of the Jewish people, he'll give you time to do your work. He'll give you time to produce innumerable great things for the world. And he'll give you time to do the most important thing in the world. And serving God is to take care of your family and educate them and direct them in the derech of Torah, mitzvahs and ma'asim tovim. And from all of us here at Yeshivas Rabbi Akiva, our prayers and our good wishes go out to the family, that you should be comforted among the mourners of Zion and Yerushalayim. And for Reb Meir himself, you should have your soul should be elevated to the highest worlds, which I'm sure it is, to sit with the great sages of all the generations, to be osek in Torah yom v'layla in the Elam Emes. And you should watch over us in this world to make sure and help us to keep the straight path, that we can bring the geula, we can bring the redemption. You change the face of the world. You change the face of this human being. You change my whole vision of the world. And especially now in your passing, when I heard of your greatness and the spading that we're given and the shvach and the praise that we're given to, totally inspiration. It's inspirational, right? An inspiration of a man, a pure Jewish neshama, will miss you, and we do miss you greatly, right? And your family and your work should be carried out to continue to grow closer, help us to grow closer to God in the teachings of the Torah. Yaakov Meir ben Aaron, your journey should be smooth, filled with light, and pure, like your soul was in this world and your personality was in this world. In the next world, you should be a Meilus of Torah, and a Meilus for Klal Yisrael, to help us to find our Gula Shlema rapidly in our days. Shalom Aleichem, my friend. God bless.